I'm Taylor Smurl, and this is Neat. A lot of spider webs in my eyes directly. Yeah, you listen to a guy that promises you some good sherry, you go into a family crypt, the next thing you know, you're buried alive and you're super dead. I mean, so today on the show, we're going to be making some cocktails with sherry inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado, and just because sherry's delicious. One with fino and one, of course, with Amontillado. So before we get started, I want to spend a minute just kind of checking out the bottles to see what we can learn from them. So right off the bat, I want to say that the sherry I'm going to be mixing with today is definitely on the low end. Like, I just feel very fortuitous that my local liquor store has this brand, this Hartley & Gibson's. It's like a $12 to $14 bottle of sherry. It's definitely on the lower end of the price scale, but if you look on the back of the label, it has the denomination of origin on it that says that it comes from the Sherry Triangle. So when I see that, I know that, you know, it's been aged properly in the Solera system. I know that it's made with Palomino grapes. I know that it's been produced in one of the 3 cities allowed to produce sherry. I know a lot about the quality by seeing that label, just like wine in general. You can have really good products in the low end and, you know, in the high end. So I would never judge a bottle of sherry by the cost alone. I would look specifically for the denomination of origin, and as long as you see that, you know it's followed all those rules, so it's gonna be pretty good. They're definitely better, more nuanced, more complex sherries at the higher price points, but for what we're doing today, we're gonna be mixing with them anyway. These are 2 great bottles, affordable, and I think probably something you could find in most parts of the country. You'll go over there amidst the pumpkins. Okay, so the first drink I'm gonna make for you is going to be with our fino sherry. Now, if you remember from the podcast, fino sherry is made, of course, from Palomino grapes. It is only aged under the floor, or the buildup of yeast that will naturally occur in a barrel. And that yeastiness is gonna come through in this fino. It's very delicate. It's best served with a bit of a chill on it, and it degrades rapidly. So fino is, I think, to use it in a cocktail, you want it in a very simple cocktail that's gonna highlight the sherry. One of the ways I go about approaching an ingredient that maybe I'm not as familiar with mixing with is to think of what it's similar to and then sub it into cocktails that utilize that. So right away, like, okay, it's a fortified white wine. Dry vermouth is a white wine. What if I try it in just a simple vermouth application? Of course, the simplest of which being like a martini. My next thought is, I bet someone's done that, and they have. It's something called a Spanish martini, sometimes a Valencia martini. It's basically just a classic martini where you're subbing in fino sherry for your dry vermouth. I'm just going to use, I have Hayman's gin. It's a slightly overproof gin. It's a Navy strength gin. That's gonna work really nicely because I'm going to use a little bit more sherry than I think the standard amount of vermouth. Personally, I like my martinis kind of wet anyway. I like a lot of vermouth in my martinis. I like a 50-50 martini. That's weird, I know, but I do. So we're not gonna do quite that, but I am gonna do 2 ounces of my gin and a whole ounce of my fino sherry. I'll be honest, when I first tried this drink, I assumed I would use a bitter of some kind, maybe an orange bitter in this, but honestly, just these 2 ingredients kind of made a freaking great drink, so I'm really excited about this. So 2 ounces of my gin. I'm a ghost, see? Labeled. Woo! Woo! I think I kind of always push the Halloween episodes around this time of year, but I don't know, I think there's a natural relationship between alcohol and spooky stuff. It's made from rot, from decay, from things dying and then continuing their life in a different form. I think that there's a natural synchronicity between booze and spooky things. This is me. 2 ounces of my gin. I'm gonna do 1 ounce of my fino sherry. I'm gonna stir this over ice. This definitely isn't showing up on camera, but so I used some spirit gum to attach the spiders to my face. And then I decided to handle the delicate cobwebs that are also on my base. So spirit gum plus fake cobwebs, as you can imagine, there's a fine sheen of cobwebs on my digits right now, and a lot of it just went into this glass. So, you know, hopefully if you're making this drink at home, you won't have the subtle flavor of spirit gum. I'm gonna stir it down. I also do want to apologize to all of my theater, drag, performing friends for not having ghostly hands. I know. If you're not doing nails, you're not the undead. Is that how it goes? All right, going to pour this into my martini glass. And then for my garnish, instead of olives or a lemon twist, which is more traditional for a martini, I'm gonna do an orange twist. Cheers! This drink makes me so happy. This is everything I love about bartending is epitomized in a drink like this because it's so simple, it's so basic, it's 2 ingredients. Honestly, like when I first made it, I thought for sure there will be room for a bitter. But then after trying it, I was like, no, that literally doesn't need bitters. It's fine. It's a great riff on a martini. I dare say I prefer this to a classic gin martini. That little bit of the kind of funky, yeasty breadiness from the floor that is what influences the flavor of the fino definitely comes through. Almost makes it warms up the gin. It makes it kind of buttery, almost like a Geneva if you're familiar with it. And it, you know, fino sherry is a very delicate product. It is beautiful, but is easily lost once you start introducing acids and sugars. But really with something like gin that just plays off of it and kind of gives it room to open up in the glass, I think this is a really great way of highlighting a beautiful dry sherry. So if you're a fan of martinis, I would say this is a great alternative for you to try. Getting in touch with my spiritual side. For the next drink I'm gonna make, I wanted to do a play off a sherry cobbler. Sherry cobbler is a classic preparation of sherry. It's literally just sherry with some sort of sugar and then it's with a bunch of fruit on top. That's it, that's a sherry cobbler. That's great, but I think we can kind of build that into a really nice punch. Now what I'm going to do, this is going to be a punch recipe, and by that I mean you can make it in a big batch. It's built to be not shaken individually, so it's, you know, the low maintenance drink. You can make a big batch of it, you can put it on a punch bowl, it's good for the night. However, I'm going to make this for you in a single serve format because, hey, this is COVID Halloween. I don't want to encourage anybody to have big punch bowls and big parties to meet them. But I'm gonna show you how to make it for one person, all right? Now, what I'm going to do per drink is 2 ounces of my Amontillado Sherry. So if you listen to the podcast, you know Amontillado Sherry is made from Palomino grapes, but it is aged both under the floor or under the naturally occurring yeast, and then aged further, exposed to oxygen. That we get the kind of the musty, yeasty, some floral and fruit notes from the floor, and then from the oxidation we get the nutty, cheesy, like richer, deeper notes. So Amontillado is really a beautiful expression of sherry in general. So that's why for this drink I'm gonna do kind of the lion's share of the palate is gonna go to the sherry. Lion's share of sherry. Oh god, I just spilled it everywhere! Rigor mortified. All right, so I've got my 2 ounces of sherry. To that I'm gonna add a little bit of citrus, just a ½ ounce of lemon. And then I want to bring a base spirit into this. I'm gonna use calvados, which we talked about a few episodes ago, just an ounce. But if you don't have calvados, which a lot of you made clear was harder to find for you, that's fine. You can use Applejack, you can use rum. Rum would be great in this situation. You could use a bourbon, like a bourbon with a high corn content, a sweeter bourbon would work great. So for this ounce, I'm gonna use calvados, but Applejack, bourbon, rum, any of those things would work fine. Cognac, for sure. Brandy. Boop. And the last ingredient, instead of adding just sugar, what I did was actually make a spiced pear simple syrup. This was fairly easy. It was just pear juice, equal parts with brown sugar, and I threw a couple cinnamon sticks in there while it simmered. So, and I'm just gonna use 3/4 ounce of this. All right, now this is my built drink, but what I'm going to do is pour it over some diced fruit, some apples, pears, cherries, and oranges, and I'm gonna let it sit overnight in the fridge. What I mean by what I'm going to do is, I already did it. Oh, it's already done. So here is my sherry, sangria, fall punch, cobbler, whatever you want to call it. That is so good. It's couldn't be more different from the previous cocktail. This is sweet, it's fruity, it's warming. It's a perfect fall cocktail, perfect fall punch. You could make this in a small batch, let it sit in your fridge for a day or two, drink it over the course of your Halloween weekend. Great party punch. And uses that Amontillado Sherry, so you have that bit of spookiness to it. Y'all, if you haven't mixed with sherry, you're sleeping on a beautiful ingredient that provides a whole range of flavors. I mean, this is with fino, this is with Amontillado. I didn't even touch on like Pedro Jimenez or cream sherry, dessert sherries, and that's as far as a sweetener in your cocktail that you can sub in for most sweet syrups. It's a beautiful alternative. So if you can find it in your local liquor store, check out sherry. Don't spend too much money on it, because I made these delicious cocktails with $12 and $14 bottles of sherry. So for all of you celebrating Halloween at your houses responsibly, thank you for being responsible. We will be back next week with one more Halloween themed episode, and we've got a live stream coming up for you that should be fun. It'll be a little bit of a surprise, so look forward to that. Stay safe, but stay spooky. I've been Taylor Smurl, and this has been Neat, the Boozecast. Thank you, of course, to all of our Patreons for supporting us. Your rewards are in the mail right now, so they should be coming to you soon. If you would like to join our Patreon, look us up, we're Neat the Boozecast. If you would like to follow us on Twitter or Instagram, it's Neat Boozecast. You can email us at neattheboozecast@gmail.com. I have been Taylor Smurl, and this has been Neat. Oh, I did the thing that I didn't name the cocktail again. We're just gonna call it an Edgar Allan Punch, right? That's fine. Edgar Allan Punch. You should think beforehand. Someday I will.